Welcome to another episode of Bright Headed Publishing Patio Book Club. I am your host, Kelly Morgan. Today I have a wonderful author of a series of children's books, and she's going to be reading those books for us today. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Dr. Evona Lee Smith. Now, Dr. Evona is a wife and a mother of 5 children. She's a native of New Orleans, and she received her bachelor's degree in nursing from Dillard University in New Orleans, and she has a master's degree in nursing and a doctor of nursing practice from Loyola University in New Orleans. She has been practicing since 2003 as a nurse, and then in 2009, she began to practice as a nurse practitioner. She has extensive experience in primary care, the emergency department, hospice, maternal-child nursing. She also serves as a prenatal educator and executive board member of Crisis Pregnancy Center. She also serves as an instructor and mentor to young women in her church community, ranging from school-aged to college. Dr. Smith has a love for educating her community, and her goal is to write books that will assist young people to cope with challenges that occur in their daily lives and those challenges that exist within societies in which they live. Please welcome, as a new member of the book club, Dr. Evona Lee Smith. Dr. Evona, thank you so much for being here today and being a part of the Patio Book Club. I'm very excited to learn more about your books and your journey and how you became a published author. So share with us your story about how all this came about.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Morgan, for having me. I'm very honored to be on this platform and giving me the opportunity to share my books with you. First of all, I became a published author just in 2020. I am a family nurse practitioner with a doctorate in nursing, and I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, born and raised in New Orleans. And I practiced as a nurse practitioner until 2015, and in 2015. In February of 2015, I went in for a surgery on my thyroid gland to get it removed. Well, after that, I woke up in intensive care on a ventilator, and this was just a routine procedure. Well, my vocal cords were paralyzed in the surgery, and I was unable to speak. I was unable to breathe on my own, and I couldn't swallow also. So they went in about 3 days later, and they put a tracheostomy in my neck so that I could breathe. So that pretty much halted my career as a family nurse practitioner because I was now disabled just within a matter of a few days. This was a very traumatic experience for me, of course, and I went home as a disabled person with a husband and children, and I had to redefine myself as a person. I was no longer able to practice as a family nurse practitioner. So let's fast forward. Within a 2-year span, I had the trach in my neck for about 2 years. Within that 2-year span, I had about 8 surgeries where they were able to remove the trach. They cut some more of my vocal cords so that I could be able to breathe without the trach. So that, even with the trach removed, I was still left with deficits. I get short of breath if I do simple things. Different things. So my activities of daily living were affected in my career. So where do I go from here is where I was. I went back to school online and I received my doctorate in nursing practice. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I've always had a love for writing since I was a child. I used to write stories and just make up things in school and just at home. I love to journal also. And when the pandemic hit, I saw how it was affecting my children. So I decided to write a book, and really God led me to write a book that helps children to cope with the pandemic. And that's when my career as an author pretty much started. So I wrote the book in one night. I contacted one of my friends, he's an artist, and asked if he would illustrate the book for me. He illustrated it, and I was able to publish my first book, Sophia's Pandemic World, in July of 2020. So,
wow, that is definitely a journey to how you came to this book. So do you label yourself or call yourself a children's author? Do you have other books that you're going to write that are maybe not children's book, or is children's books your genre?
I love writing children's books, but I don't want to label myself as a children's book author, because my goal is to write books because of what I've been through. To write books to help children and adults cope with challenging circumstances. And specifically children, reading is a way to get them to express how they feel. Children don't always know how to articulate their feelings, but if they read it in a book, and there's a character that they can relate to, that can start to initiate conversations to help them to express how they're feeling. So no, I don't want to label myself as a children's book author. I'm an author. And because I do have plans on publishing other books for young adults and adults.
Fantastic. And so you self-published your book, and I always like to find out about authors' journeys who have self-published, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So, tell me, what was your journey like when you self-published? Did you know what you were getting into, or did you kind of figure it out as you were going along?
I had no idea what I was getting into and no idea what I was doing, honestly. I was excited. I wrote a book, and now what I did is I educated myself. I read books about the self-publishing process, how to publish on Amazon, but there wasn't anyone there to guide me in the process. But I read books, and I made an outline on the process on how to publish, and I went ahead and I did it. Now, the most challenging part in the beginning for me was the actual formatting. I knew nothing about formatting a book for a paperback, and that was very challenging for me, because I would upload my book to Amazon KDP is where I published first, and I got rejected a few times because my book wasn't formatted the correct way. So I had to dig and find different software that I knew nothing about, because I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm not familiar with software and things like that. So I had to become familiar with different software such as Canva and different things that I could use to format my book cover and my manuscript for paperback publishing.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, and there's a lot that goes into self-publishing. that I think most of us don't know until we actually start getting into it. And then you have all these things that come up, and then you have to figure out how to do them. So the
Right.
book that you're going to be sharing with us today, that you're going to be reading, kind of give us a little synopsis about the book, where we can get the book, and then feel free to go ahead and start reading the book.
Okay, well, today I'm going to read Sophia's Pandemic World. And Sophia's Pandemic World is a short story to help children to cope during a pandemic. This book is basically teaching children to use the recommended precautions to prevent the transmission of the COVID-19 virus in language that they can understand. And it also mentions Sophia's mom teaches her things that she can do safely as a school-age child. The book is written for school-age children, and it helps them to understand how to be safe and still enjoy their lives as school-age children. You can find this book on Amazon.com. It is also available on BarnesandNoble.com and Apple iBooks. So it's available in Kindle and paperback versions. Sophia's Pandemic World also has a teacher's guide that's available with activities that promote reading comprehension that accompanies the book. So you can purchase the book as well as the teacher's guide that can be used in classrooms as well as at home. I know a majority of us are doing virtual school with our kids at home right now. So it's a good tool to help your kids with reading comprehension. So both books can be purchased on Amazon.com. Sophia's Pandemic World, a short story to assist children in coping during a pandemic. Sophia awoke one day, surprised that the world she once knew had gone away. She wanted to go outside, play with her friends, and ride her bike. But things had changed since she slept that night. There was a viral pandemic in the atmosphere. Sophia was hoping this was not as it appeared. Schools and shopping malls were closed, and she couldn't play with her best friend, Rose. The government had ordered everyone to stay at home. How sad was Sophia that she was not free to roam. Her parents turned the TV on, and there was so much death. The news updates were scary, and she thought there would be no one left. Sophia was very afraid. Would she lose her mother, her father, her sister, or her brother? Or would she get sick and never recover? Sophia became so overwhelmed that she had no hope. She didn't know how to tell her parents that she could not cope. Sophia decided she would not leave her room again. She was sad and angry because the pandemic separated her from her friends. Sophia's mom sensed that she was having trouble, so Sophia rushed to her room on the double. What's wrong, Sophia? Her mom asked. Sophia answered, I'm feeling so sad. I want my life back with school, family gatherings, and playing with my friends. I'm wondering if this pandemic will ever end. Sophia's mom responded with a warm smile. Relax, my child. This will only last for a little while. And though it might seem strange, this pandemic will only require a change. Come, let me show you what we must do. You could go outside and even play with your dog Blue. Sophia jumped out of bed, excited in anticipation to see what was ahead. Her mom walked her to the sink and Sophia thought they were getting something to drink. Sophia's mom looked at her and said, "No need to be afraid. We will soon return to our normal lives. We must follow simple instructions from the expert in the medical field. Now, Sophia, let's make a deal. Always wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds at a time. This gets rid of the dirt and the grime. If you can't get to running water, be even the wiser and use hand sanitizer. Please avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth as much as you can with unwashed hands. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a tissue or the inside of your elbow. Otherwise, the numbers of those who have the virus will grow. Stay away from people who are ill. This virus is real. Some people don't have symptoms and they can still get sick. So put distance between yourself and others when you're out in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others when you are ready to roam. And wash your hands again when you return home. I have a cloth face mask for you, but children shouldn't wear them if they are under 2. Everyone should wear a cloth face cover when they go out in public because you can spread the virus even if you don't feel sick. We must clean and disinfect surfaces that we touch a lot. This includes doorknobs, light switches, handles, and countertops. My dear daughter, if we follow these instructions, we can still enjoy life without disruptions. You can go outside and ride your bike, or you can even fly a kite. You could read a good book, or we could go fishing near a brook. You could run a race with your brother, or you could build a fort with your covers. There are so many things that we can do and remain safe. One thing that I promise, my daughter, is that you won't go through this alone. Let's discover this new way of living together and see what the future holds. The beginning.
Wow, that is a really good book. I like that. And I don't have small children, but I do have a grandson.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the way that you explained it, I think kids would be able to definitely understand it. I really like
Great.
it.
Thank you so much.
So your other book that you wrote, I know that you have a second book.
Yes.
What is the name of that book?
So the name of my second book is called Breathe. And this is a short story to help children cope with social injustice. The main character in this book is Seth, and he's a friend of Sophia from the first book. And this is from the Sophia and Friends series, the second book in the series. So I'm going to begin to read. Breathe, a short story to help parents assist children in coping with social injustice. Sophia and her friends Seth, Sydney, and Stephen were playing a game of tag when suddenly they heard sirens. Seth ran from the police sirens as if he was scared. Sophia and her friends stood and stared. They all were very confused, wondering how Seth could be so rude. Seth ran all the way home as if he was running for his life. He burst through the door of his parents' home and ran into his room. His dad couldn't help but notice his face full of gloom. Seth's father was alarmed and wondered, did someone attempt to do him harm? He walked swiftly to his room to find a closed door, and he began to worry even more. What's wrong, my son? Asked Seth's dad. What is causing you to feel so sad? Seth looked up at his father as tears ran down his face. Then his dad's heart began to race. "Did someone hurt you, my son?" asked Seth's dad. Seth replied, "I was afraid that the police would shoot me with their guns. So when I heard the sirens, I decided to run." Seth's dad replied, "I knew that one day we would have this conversation. Due to all of the social injustice that you see happening on the news stations. This society is full of injustice and oppression. But son, it's time that I teach you a lesson. As a black man in America, you will deal with discrimination, stereotyping, and racial profiling. This is indeed a reality for you and me. This ignorance does not define who God made you to be. Son, I need you to breathe." George, Brianna, and so many others did not deserve to die. This injustice has caused many people of all colors to cry. When you look into most black men and women's eyes, you can see the pain. It is a feeling of oppression that can be hard to explain. Most can recall when they first experienced the feeling of oppression. As a black person in America, it is one of your first life lessons. Whether it is being racially profiled by the police or being profiled by a store clerk as a thief, an incident that you will never forget. It is a feeling that haunts you so that it causes bad dreams and night sweats. Seth looked up at his dad with tears and asked, "Why do some people show so much hate? Is it because they cannot relate?" Seth's dad replied, "The answer is quite simple, my son. It is ignorance, often passed down from generation to generation. Now, I am teaching you not to believe that every word you hear is true. The world will tell you that you were just a slave. People of color don't know how to behave. Although our ancestors were slaves, this is true. Slavery does not define you, me, or you. They will cloud your mind with images of men and women in chains, but you will not be taught how your forefathers had the strength to sustain. They sustained harsh conditions, whippings, and beatings, yet they persevered in reaching to overcome their circumstances when they were not given many chances to succeed. My son, I need you to breathe. Our past in this country as slaves, we do acknowledge, but let this be a motivational tool for you to go to college. Although odds are often set against you by others, do not let anyone define you only by your color. You are more than what society perceives you as. You are a strong, intelligent man full of class. When you embrace who you really are, the feelings of oppression will not overtake you. Now breathe, my son. The words that I'm speaking are true. You are capable of earning a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree, like George Elkhorn, who created the first X-ray machine. You can become well established in the field of electronics, like Otis Boykin, whose future was not promised. He is best known for inventing the pacemaker that regulates the heart. And believe me, son, you are just as smart. Did you know the first clock made in America was created by a black man? His name was Benjamin Banneker, an author, astronomer, and a mathematician. That's right. You have that same kind of mind. You can invent something that is 100% of its kind. You can follow the same path as Dr. Patricia Bath, who conducted the first cataract surgery. Now breathe, my son, and listen closely. Just as George Washington Carver, you have the ability to think. He's known for making cooking oil, axle grease, and printer's ink. Dr. Mark Dean had a mind like yours to reach even higher. He built his own computer, radio, and amplifier. Let us not forget about Dr. Charles Richard Drew. In a time of need, he knew just what to do. Those who need blood have him to thank. His work with blood plasma led to the invention of blood banks. Like Shirley Jackson, you must put your knowledge into action. As a known theoretical physicist, she made many advances in the field of science. Also, I would like to tell you about Garrett A. Morgan. As he did, you can make a mark in this world that will last. He's known for the traffic signal and the gas mask. There are also unsung heroes like James E. West. He developed microphones, and just as he did, you can develop the best. And anytime you see a truck while we are on the road transporting frozen food, you can thank Frederick McKinley Jones, because he invented that, dude. My son, these great inventors paved the way for young men like you. So when someone tries to label you as anything less, you know that you were preceded by the best. You must work hard and always read. You can do great things, son. Now breathe. Now that you know you can invent, let me tell you about our freedom fighters who by God were sent. Nat Turner was an enslaved preacher. Not satisfied with being a slave, became a rebellion leader. Though his methods today I would not recommend, the tactics he used got the country's attention. Then there was Harriet Tubman, who rescued 70 enslaved persons, including family and friends. Just as Nat and Harriet, you can free your people who suffer from poverty and a lack of knowledge. You can empower them with tools to succeed by sending young people to college. Like Sojourner Truth, for just as you can stand. After being freed, she became the first Black woman to win a court case against a white man. You can become a lawyer and serve in the Supreme Court, like Thurgood Marshall, the first African American justice. You can overcome hate like Macon Boylan Allen, the first licensed African American lawyer in the United States. Then came Charlotte E. Ray, the first African American female lawyer whose name lives on today. My son, you can fight for legislation of laws that can give us what we need. Sit back and listen, my son. Now breathe. Like Dr. Martin Luther King, you can have a dream that becomes a reality. Leader of the Civil Rights Movement, a symbol of nonviolence, he was thought to be, spent his life fighting for equality. And we will always hold dear the values of our leader, Malcolm X. By any means necessary is a phrase he is known for best. Use these words that Malcolm quoted to reach your goals and to fight the oppression of your foes. No matter what obstacles you face, stay focused, endure, and keep the faith. You may want to be a part of a movement, like students in the Little Rock Nine. The stand they took against segregation in schools has stood the test of time. You could become a member of the NAACP or the Congressional Black Caucus to ensure that as a people, we are making progress. You could be a great writer like Langston Hughes or Toni Morrison to uplift your people and to declare your generation. You could write poetic words like Robert Hayden and James Baldwin. You could be a famous artist like the painter Jacob Lawrence, the best-known African-American artist of the 20th century. My son, your name can be written in history. You could break records in athletics like Jackie Robinson and Arthur Ashe. My son, you could establish a legacy that will last. You could be like Mike or Kobe Bryant, masters of the game. You can be a household name. If you want to be an actor like Sidney Poitier or Denzel Washington, you could win an Academy Award. The work of these great men helped to move Black actors forward. Barack Obama made it evident that a Black man could be president. Just as President Obama led with wisdom and grace. In history, with other presidents, we could see your face. As you can see, my son, Black people have stood the test of time. Though oppressed and sometimes hindered, we've continued to rise. Your abilities are unlimited in what you can achieve. Do not let others define you. Continue to believe. So many have led the way, and with your generation, we will reach higher heights. One day, I pray, it will not matter if a person is Black or white. Seth gazed in amazement at his dad and said, I'm so glad we had this talk. Now, I don't feel so sad. Black people have done so many great things. Though it still hurts that some people don't look at us as human beings. I feel stronger knowing that I can be anything I want to be when I grow up. I can even stand up against this violence, letting the world know we've had enough. I want to get more and more education so I can have the power to change this nation. Yes, you can make a change, my son, one day at a time, said Seth's dad with a smile. The change will begin first with you. Get your education and live a life free of crime. Stay away from drugs and influence one person at a time. Our country will go far when we unite in showing the world at large who we truly are. A people who possess intelligence, strength, and courage. A people who can persevere even though at times we get discouraged. With all these things I have said to you, when you feel oppressed, you can stand on these truths. Keep your eyes on the prize and be determined to succeed. Your life matters, my son. I need you to breathe. Your lives mattered. George Floyd, Emmett Till, Ahmaud Arbery, Aura Rosser, Botham Jean, Elton Sterling, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Gabriela Navarez, Michael Brown, Elijah McClain, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, Tatiana Jefferson, Stephon Clark, Philando Castile, Michelle Cuso, Janisha Fonville, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Tanisha Anderson, Sandra Bland. There are many names of African Americans not listed here who were killed unjustly. Let them not be forgotten, and do your part to make a positive impact in your community.
That is a wonderful book. You know, it's safe to say, and I've said this about other authors, but you as well. Your words are very, very powerful. I believe that they will resonate with children. I just, it's wonderful what you've done. That's a wonderful book. Thank you so much for sharing it, because I really enjoyed it. Tell us again where we can get the book. Oh, you're welcome. Where can they get the book?
Okay, so they can get Breathe on Amazon.com also. All my books are available on Amazon.com in Kindle versions as well as paperback.
So you mentioned that this is a series. Are there other books in the works?
There are other books in the works, yes. I don't want to speak on them right now because they are still developing. But there are other books in the works to help children cope with different challenges that they might face during this time. Yes.
Great. Now I know that you can't talk about it in the two characters that we know so far, Sophia and Seth. Are the other books going to introduce other characters as well, or are along with Sophia and Seth?
Yes, the other books are going to introduce other characters, and Sophia and Seth will be included in some of the other books also. Yes.
Fantastic. So I always like to have the authors, when they come on, to be able to leave the listeners with any wise words or any advice that you can give an author or anybody that's thinking about writing a book, or who is maybe thinking about publishing a book and maybe, wants to be where you are, because right now somebody would really love to be where you are, working on multiple books. That's fantastic. What words would you like to leave them with?
First of all, I would, if you just write, first of all, just write. That's the first step in becoming an author. Write what's in your head, because a lot of times I have so many things in my head that I haven't put on paper. Just start writing. Right. So once you have your manuscript, that's when you start the process of actually making it come alive in a book. You can become an author. I know it was something that I never even imagined that I can become a published author, but you can do it. Now, you should have, and I will say this, it is more than just publishing a book. You should develop a strategic marketing plan for your book prior to even publishing your book, because otherwise you will just have a book that's published that a lot of people don't have access to because they don't know about it. So you should be looking at different platforms that allow you to talk about your book, such as this one, different podcasts and Facebook groups on social media, and different different platforms that allow you to market your book. Do not I know sometimes when we are new authors trying to publish, we spend unnecessary money on things that are free. Self-publishing is totally free. You may spend a little money on getting someone to format your book for you or editing, but you should not spend thousands of dollars on a self-publishing course, because they are teaching you to do something that is totally free. So know that going into it, don't spend unnecessary money, and have a strategic marketing plan. Also, have a marketing plan, but even if you don't, and we all want a bestseller, but even if you don't end up with a best-selling book, it is live out your purpose. If your purpose is to write a book of poetry, or write a book to empower women or men, or whatever your purpose in writing, live that purpose out. And for me, I want to sell books, of course, but because I can see my book printed out in black and white, and my heart was poured into the books that I've written, I'm satisfied with that, because I feel like I fulfilled my purpose. And so the world needs whatever you have. Whatever in your head, the world needs it, especially during times like these. So start by writing and then make a plan. Develop a plan on publishing as well as marketing.
That is absolutely wonderful advice. I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much for sharing. Again, tell us the name of the books one more time.
Okay. My first book that I read is called Sophia's Pandemic World, and it's available on Amazon.com in paperback as well as Kindle versions. And Sophia's Pandemic World also has a teacher's guide that teachers can use in classrooms. Right now, children need to be taught on precautions, especially at school. So the teacher's guide is an activity book that and it has vocabulary, math activities that can accompany the book in the classroom as well as at home. The second book is called Breathe, and it's a short story to help children cope with social injustice, and that's also available on Amazon.com. Now, this upcoming year, which is in a few days, in early February, I'm going to be publishing 2 coloring books, one for Sophia's Pandemic World and the other for Breathe. And I'm doing it in February because Breathe has a lot of Black history in it, and February is Black History Month, so I'm going to publish the coloring book for Breathe and the coloring book for Sophia's Pandemic World early February 2021. And that will be on Amazon.com also.
Fantastic. Dr. Evona, thank you so much for being a part of Bright Headed Publishing Audiobook Book Club. I really appreciate you coming through. And definitely when your other books come out, you're going to have to definitely come back and share those with us as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you allowing me to share my books on your platform. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. You are very welcome. Thank you for listening to another episode of Bright Headed Publishing Audiobook Book Club. We just wrapped up with Dr. Evona Lee Smith as she introduced us to her series of books, Sophia's Pandemic World and Breathe. Both of these are children's books and available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other online ebook retailers. Next week, another episode and another guest. If you're an author or someone who supports authors, like an editor or graphic designer, we'd love to have you be a part of the book club. Email us at brightheadedpublishing@gmail.com. Again, that's brightheadedpublishing@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at BHP Audiobook Book Club. Once more, I have been your host, Kelly Morgan, and as always, keep writing.